everyone, welcome to the latest Wellingtone webinar, What Change Management is Not. We're turning the tide a little bit on the conversations around change management today. I'm going to introduce myself and then my colleague Karen, who is also supporting this webinar today, and she'll be giving you lots of little insights, and I'll let her introduce herself in a second. My name's Emma Arnath-Pemberton. I think some of you probably know me already. I'm the Director of Consulting Services at Wellingtone, and I also look after sustainability and corporate responsibility. As part of my job, I also organise our Future PMO conference every year. So if you haven't already, get your tickets for the 6th of October 2022 in London for an in-person event. Karen, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yes, hi everybody, thank you for having me. My name is Karen Moore. I'm a senior training consultant with Wellington. As part of my job, most of the time I spend delivering training, in particular project management, change and agile training. And I also spend a fair bit of time writing new courses and customizing our existing material to suit our clients. Thank you, Emma.
Thanks, Karen. We'll hand back to Karen in a second. But in case you don't know who we are, we're from a company called Wellingtone. We're a project management consultancy firm with our head office in Windsor here in the UK. We also have offices in Dublin in Ireland and in Madrid in Spain. And we even go as far as having partners in far-flung places like Costa Rica who help us to spread the good project management and PMO work that we do. Our mission is to enable our clients to make a step change in their project management maturity. And we do that through a number of different services and events such as technology. We are a Microsoft Gold partner. We offer training, as Karen's just mentioned. We do a lot of consultancy, and we run reports and events such as this one today. So we hope that you enjoy the topic today on change management. And before we get started, our webinars are short and sweet, so we've got 18 minutes worth of content, and then we'll be handing over for questions to you guys. So I will be keeping an eye on the question panel, so do feel free to either use the question panel itself or use the chat, and we'll see if we get any interesting questions that we can talk about afterwards to kind of get the conversation going a little bit. So change management, let's talk about some key themes from all the big players that are out there. There are lots of companies that specialize in change management. We are one of them. And some of the key themes that come out, regardless of the process that they use, the approach that they take, are here. We've tried to boil them down anyway into 5 easy to handle key themes. The first one is that change is a process, not an event. And we'll be talking about some of these as we go through today. Also, people have to be at the heart of change. It is a people game at the end of the day, and resistance to change is therefore inevitable. So we must manage it. It can be managed, we promise. We'll be giving you some hints and tips about resistance as we go through the content today as well. We must also make sure that the organisation as a whole is supported, not just the people that are going to be impacted by change, and really understanding where we are as an organisation when it comes to change management. And we have to reinforce it. Change doesn't just end when the project closure report gets signed off. It is a much bigger piece than that, which Karen, who I'm going to hand over to now, is going to talk us through what change management is not over the next few slides. Karen, over to you.
Thank you, Emma. So got a bit of a challenge here trying to stick to the time. Change management is one of my absolute favorite topics, and I would be quite happy to talk for the rest of the day, but I'm going to try my best not to do that now. So I'll jump straight in. Change management is not just the what. So what I mean by that is change management is not just about articulating what is changing or what we're going to do differently, or what tasks or actions we're taking to make that change come about. Change management is a lot more about the why. So articulating why are we doing this change, or why is it necessary, and why is it necessary right now? And by doing that, we help people that will go through change better buy into the change. It increases the chances that they will be motivated and able and willing to take part in the change. The what is really important as well, of course. We need to know that in order to make the change happen, but that's where we have a crossover between change management that brings more of the people side and the why, and project management, where helps us a bit more with the what side of things. Thank you, Emma. Next one, please. And change management is not a role. I'm sure you've been in a situation where someone has been given the formal title change manager or change lead or some variation of those. And you've probably seen, just like I have, that in itself does not guarantee a successful change. Just like having someone called a project manager does not guarantee that we have a successful project. Change management is bigger than any one role. It requires several people to be involved in order for the change to be successful. And in actual fact, it might be helpful to change the way we think about this from thinking about roles that someone needs to hold to responsibilities that need to be fulfilled. So the kind of responsibilities that need to be fulfilled in order for the change to be successful include, and you have them on the slide here, sponsoring the change. Just like in a project, a change needs visible, active senior leadership. So someone of suitable seniority for the change that we're doing that can actively represent the change, give it legitimacy and credibility, that can champion it to other senior stakeholders, and that can remove blockages and things that might prevent the change from progressing. And we do also need someone that can plan and manage and control and coordinate the change. And this might be, it could be the project manager. It could indeed be someone who has the title change manager or change lead or similar. And then we need people to champion the change. Now, the sponsor is a champion of the change. And whoever is doing the planning and management of the change should definitely be a champion as well. But that's not enough. You need to have people on the ground as well, peers of the people that will be impacted by the change, who can be the early adopters, who can model the desired behaviors, who can show that the thing that is new and different that we're bringing in is actually a good thing, an attractive thing. They are absolutely key in giving the change credibility among the people that will be impacted by it and the people that will need to start doing things differently. And they're also absolutely key for making sure that the change sticks. But in addition to the champions, you do really also need someone that takes responsibility for ensuring the change is embedded or that it sticks. So someone that can make sure that we thoroughly embed the new way of working, the new system, etc., and that we close down the old ways so that the new way becomes the only way. Okay? And then also we need to have someone that takes responsibility for realizing benefits. Benefits, of course, being the measurable impact or result of having done the change. So someone that is responsible for monitoring, tracking, following up, recognizing and acknowledging when we have hit the results. Change management is not just at the end. It's not just like Emma said, the final thing we do when the project completion report is done, the final tick the box before we hurl the output over the fence, as it were. No, change management has to go alongside project management activities to make sure that change is considered and planned for all the way throughout the project to make sure that we get the desired benefits at the end. And again, this might be an area where a lot of organizations and teams and sponsors and project managers could really benefit from changing their mindset, to stop thinking of the project that we are delivering or implementing, and instead start thinking about the change that we are looking to achieve. Because when we think about it, doing projects is about introducing something that is new or different to the organization. And that is the change. So change management and project management should go hand in hand throughout the entire project and beyond. Thank you, Emma. Next, please. Thank you. And on that note, Emma touched on this already. Change isn't an event, or change management isn't an event. It's not a, we press a button or flick a switch. It's a longer process. There's work that we have to do before a change to prepare the organization. And by that, I mean the people in the organization primarily, to be ready and able to take part in the change. There are things that we have to do during the change to make sure we support the people and the business to make sure we don't interrupt or damage business as usual. And there are things that we have to do afterwards to reinforce and sustain the change, and of course, get those benefits. That's the whole point of doing all of this work. And change management is not just about training. Now, as a senior training consultant, I would love to be able to sit here and say that training is an end in itself and it will solve all of your problems. But that just isn't the case. Training is not an end in itself. It's a means to get somewhere. Now, when we're working with change management, we have to stay people focused and focus on the individual. Ultimately, if we want change to happen, we need to get an individual or a large group of individuals to do something differently. And in order to do that, training is usually necessary and a very important component of change management, because people need new knowledge, they need new skills, etc. But it's not everything. We also need to have the things that we've already touched upon, like the why, that makes people buy into the change, and that helps them show up at the training ready and able to absorb what we're going to teach them, and then be able to bring that back to work and do something differently. And we need to have all those other roles and responsibilities to make sure that all the learning that we get actually is absorbed and leads to something different. So training is important, but it's not everything. We need to send people on a bit of a journey of change to help prepare them, educate them, teach them whatever they need to know, and then also help them actually do something differently when they're back to work. Next, please, Emma. So on that note then, change management is not a one-size-fits-all. So when individuals go through change, they usually experience some challenges. We can almost always assume there will be some sort of resistance to change, because in order to do change, an individual has to give up something that they're used to in order to embrace something new. And people are just hardwired to resist that sort of scenario. There are lots of different models and theories that help explain the internal processes and psychological steps that a person goes through as part of adopting a change. And as a change practitioner, it's really useful to study those theories so that we can understand what people might experience and why, so that we can make adaptations to our change plans and make sure that we do the change in a way that is appropriate for the particular scenario that we're in. Very importantly as well is to remember that every individual is unique. So all people are different, and therefore people will react differently to different types of change. So what you can see on the slide here is arguably the most common model to explain the processes that an individual goes through in change. It's the Kubler-Ross change curve. And it describes different psychological stages that people go through, from denial to anger to bargaining, depression, before acceptance, and integration or problem solving. These are predictable stages that everyone will go through, but every individual will spend different amounts of time in each stage. Some people might skip one stage to then come back to it later, or they might do them in entirely different orders. And the whole thing can take very different times depending on the individual. So we have to remember as change practitioners that just because a person is reacting differently to a change compared to what we ourselves did, it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with that person or with ourselves or with a change as a whole. Change is difficult, change isn't a one-size-fits-all, so that we need to be able to understand different perspectives and then act accordingly. Okay. And then change management is not obvious. As project professionals, we tend to want to focus on our technical constraints, the good old time, cost, quality triangle. So the things that we're going to do, the timelines we're working towards, how much time or how much more efficient this change is going to make us, how much money we're going to save, the different areas of the business that we will touch on and in what way, etc. And those things are all really important. We need to know those in order to manage the change effectively. But thinking about change from the individual's point of view, the technical constraints don't have any meaning to the individual themselves. Okay? And ultimately, we will act and we will react as individuals. The things that really have meaning to and impact an individual and how they think about a change and how willing they are to take part in it are things like their perceptions and beliefs of the change. To what extent they understand it, and perhaps what misunderstandings and misperceptions they might have. And their perception and understanding of how it will impact them, their position in the company, whether it's a formal or informal position, relationships with others, how people will see them, their level of power or relative power, etc. So as change managers, we have to be aware of that. We have to know about the technical constraints, the triangle, but also we have to understand the things that sit under the surface, as it were, the bigger part of the iceberg of change. And we have to acknowledge those things, and we have to be able to communicate to people in a way that addresses those under the surface concerns that will really impact how they take to the change. Thank you. And then finally, change management is not just face-to-face. Past couple of years, we have seen that more or less anything sometimes has to be done virtually or remotely, and they certainly can be done virtually or remotely. But in change management, just like with any other remote work, there are certain challenges that either are unique to a remote setting, or they're the kind of challenges that we come across face-to-face, but perhaps exacerbated a bit in a remote setting. It's very important that we acknowledge those and that we proactively plan what to do with them. So examples of that might include there's additional challenges to do with building and engaging a change team, or the people that will actually make the change happen. It can make it difficult to communicate effectively or to build engagement, to spot and understand resistance and do something about it. It brings in challenges with how we upskill people, how we keep people informed, and how we best support people to do whatever it is the change needs them to do. The good news is there are things that we can do to address all of these challenges in a proactive way. And we talk about those in a little bit more detail in our change management for practitioner course, of course. And that's everything from me. Back to you, Emma.
Thanks, Karen. That was really super interesting. And it's always interesting to kind of turn the head of a conversation where everybody's always talking about what change management is and why it's important, and actually looking at what it isn't can really help people to have a slightly different conversation, maybe with people who are either demanding or resisting some kind of change. So in terms of setting your change team up for success, Karen's mentioned about some of the responsibilities and some of the key elements that we need to consider, but we also need to think about what's going to make us successful. And first of all, we need to think that everybody has to understand what good change management looks like and that it is possible. Also, being able to explain why the change is happening, why this, why now, what does success look like, what are our goals, and that we give people the tools and the skills to be able to communicate about the change. We need to make sure that everybody's aware of what's coming in the change management plan. We need to be really transparent about how we're going to communicate with people. And we need to be really mindful of how best to recognize and deal with those signs of resistance, considering that it isn't just about that time, cost, quality, the technical aspects of delivery, as well as thinking about actually what does our culture say? You know, how do things get done? And can we lever that to kind of help our change to be successful? And ultimately, change is about people. So making sure that we are communicating, supporting, and planning with the humans in mind. So making sure we're taking a human first approach every single time. And that's it. Excited to be welcoming everybody to London on the 6th of October, 2022. And thank you so much for joining this short webinar. We hope you found it insightful and interesting and you've got something out of it, and we hope to see you all soon. Thanks, guys.